Live Jump with Nita Bradley.
And good evening, everybody. And thank you for tuning in to another edition of Live Talk with Anita Bradley. I am your host for tonight, Anita Bradley. And I do apologize. We are having a little bit of technical difficulties tonight, but we are working through that. And let's see what just happened. Okay. Am I still here? Okay. My entire screen just went blank. So we're working through our technical difficulties tonight, and we're just going to go with the flow. I think tonight is going to be very. Um, I think tonight is going to be very, very um, enlightening. Um, Hold on one second. Let's see. Okay, I'm on there. Give me one second. Okay, I think my guests are having problems getting in. Let's see. Okay. So anyhow, do forgive me for the delay. Um, so um, I had two guests scheduled, and they are still working their end so they can get in on this conversation. Um, Let me see. She said she can't get in. Uh, let's see if he's ready.
Do you
Hey,
hear any
brother,
feedback?
how are you? Nope, nope,
You
we
sure?
fixed it. Yep,
Okay.
and we're
All right.
alive. Do you hear feedback on your end?
No, I
Okay,
see.
we fixed it. Then we're good on over here. We are live already.
Okay.
Um, Hold on. One more guest says, let me make sure she has the link. Um, and so I hope everybody had a good day and a good week. And hope you have something really good planned for the weekend. Um, of course, if the weather holds, it might be a nice time to just get out and, not too much out, but you know what I mean. Just get out and maybe take a drive or something. But I still want you guys to be safe and show social distance and make sure you wear your mask, okay? All right. So tonight we're going to talk about postpartum depression. And one of the things I wanted to really bring to your attention is that a lot of times we just look at it from one perspective. And when I was doing my research and really thinking about all of this, I saw that men go through postpartum depression as well, but they go through it in a different way. And I wanted to get both perspectives uh, from a male and from a female that could give us both perspectives. And so we have already Brother Suave. I'm going to let him introduce himself before we get into it. Brother Suave, can you introduce yourself to the people, sir?
Okay, yeah. How you doing? Suave evening. I'm Brother Suave, the mind-blowing, thought-provoking, and eye-opening on-air personality, life coach, psychotherapist, entrepreneur, and author.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm just honored to be able to come on the show and just be able to give some insight from a different perspective. I'm very transparent, to the point that it just shocks people. Like I always say, I'll be the most transparent. I'll be more transparent than your mom's.
Yes, you do. true story. He is not exaggerating. So I want you to really get ready to hear his story tonight. I pray that you all grab some men, some of your husbands, and some other people that you may know that and come on in this room. I want you to hear from both perspectives, especially from a man's perspective, because so many times when we do look at different things, we only hear about things from women's perspective. Therefore, men don't get a lot of attention in areas that they need help in, or in areas that they need to have open dialogue in. So what happens is we'll say women, 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 but then we have men in our midst that just don't get the attention that they need. And all along, they're suffering through some of the same things. However, they may, go through it in a different way. We would probably, cry, and, women go through things differently. You cannot expect a lot of times a man to go through things the way a woman goes through things. It's just not going to work that way. And I think one of the things we have to do as women, we have to stop expecting our men and men in our lives. We have to, okay, there she is. We have to stop expecting the men in our lives to act like we act, because they're not. Hey, sweetheart, how are you?
Hi, man. How are you?
Good.
How
Why
you
don't you
doing?
introduce yourself right quick? We got Brother Suave on, so introduce yourself, and we are live.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Trinise. How are you doing, Brother Suave?
No, I'm doing suave-tastic.
That's great. That's great.
And you want to say good evening to
Mhm.
the audience?
Oh, good evening, audience. Good evening, everyone. How are you?
All right. So I was saying, Treese, that a lot of times when we hear things like postpartum depression, we only think about it from a woman's perspective. We
Right.
never, I know I didn't until just now. We never think about it from a man's perspective and look into it to see how do men feel sometimes when they find themselves with a newborn, whether they wanted the newborn or not, whether they were expecting to have a newborn or not. How do men
Right.
actually feel? And we never have had that conversation like you and I were talking last night. And I
Hmm.
told you, I said, did you know men go through some of the same stuff women go through, but they never get the attention that they need in that area?
Right.
And you were
Right.
like, no, you
Never
had no
heard of it.
idea.
Never heard of it.
Yeah,
Mhm.
Right.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's what you told me last night. That's
Uh,
exactly what you told me last night. You said you had never even heard of men going through anything close to what we go through.
Right. Right. It
Hmm.
was just something, just, it's like a different language. Like you said, who
Right,
goes through what? But how,
right.
why are they going through that? What do they, what's the reason for them going through it? But you have to look at it on both ends. You can't just, look at it from a woman's point of view. You have to have an open mind about the situation.
Mhm.
Well, we got the right person, honey, to answer that question for you. We got the right person to answer all of our questions for us, because you do kind of think, well, they're not the one having the baby, they're not the one carrying the baby, they're not the one got
Exactly.
to go through labor and delivery, they're not the one that got to recover, their bodies are
Hmm.
not stretched out with stretch marks and
Exactly.
feet swollen and having all these cravings. They're not the one going through that. So like you said, it's reasonable to ask what they going through, what's their problem? So it's easy to assume that they don't have an issue, or they shouldn't. What we think is they shouldn't, because the
Right.
onus is on us now to carry the baby, deliver the baby, nurture the baby and all of that.
Right.
But what we're forgetting, that seed had to come from a
From
father.
somewhere. Hmm.
Exactly. So then
Hmm.
how come, and I had to check me, because I was like, okay, Benita, if the seed came from a father, then how come men can't have these feelings as well? And when I thought about that, I remember only about one person came straight to mind, and he is the author of a book. We're gonna get into that book later on in a few, but this book, I read this book and it really opened my eyes. And when I thought about doing a show on postpartum, he is probably the only man that came to my mind that I knew that would come on and be transparent as he is in this book that he wrote years ago.
Hmm.
And so, what I wanted to do tonight, I want to start with what the statistics are. And again, the statistics does not even address the fact that
Mm-hmm.
men go through postpartum depression. It does
Hmm.
not address the fact that men even have that I can't bond with my baby. They don't address the men at all, which I
Right.
really do think is an oversight on the part of uh, the American Psychology Association, all of those, any group, Psychology Today, uh, not even the Mayo Clinic addresses. Those are some of my favorite research avenues that I use quite often. None of them addresses the father connection to the child,
Right.
as
Mm-hmm.
if he's irrelevant. But there would be no child without the
Now
father.
the father.
Yeah, so
Right.
we need to really look at what we're doing as far as, not really giving fathers enough attention. So listen
Hmm.
to this. It says postpartum depression, which is PPD, is the most common complication of childbirth. It says up to 1 in 7 women experience PPD. It says approximately 600,000 women get PPD each year in the US alone. And then it says for half of the women diagnosed with PPD, this is their first episode with depression. And I wanted to point out that it's a diagnosis. It's
Right.
just not, oh, I'm not feeling good today, or I'm kind of
Hmm.
feeling low. It's an actual diagnosis. And then it says about half of women who are diagnosed with PPD experience these symptoms really start during the pregnancy. And then it says only 15% of women with postpartum depression ever receive professional treatment. And so the moment you realize that something is not connecting. You know, all of us,
Mm.
male and female, we got a new baby coming in. We should be excited. We should be happy. We should be joyful. We get to get out the little pretty clothes, all the
Mm.
blues or the pinks or the yellows or whatever color they using these days. We get to do all of this stuff because why? We're expecting something new,
Right.
but something happens between expectation and realization.
Yeah.
Something happens. We're expecting one thing, but then when reality hits, something else occurs. Something else occurs. And so, Teresa, I want to start with you. Um, how old is your baby? She's
She's
6 months,
8 months. 8 months.
8 months.
Yes.
All right, let's start with you. Tell us a little bit about your journey and how you realized that you were suffering with postpartum depression.
Well, I believe mine started um, towards the end of my pregnancy.
Okay.
Every mother wants to be noticed. You know,
Okay.
um, they want everyone to care about her as well as the baby. You find so
Right.
many people coming up rubbing your stomach when you're pregnant, and oh,
Mm-hmm.
how's the baby doing? When are you due? And is baby kicking? They're so worried about the baby, and I understand why. But at the same time,
Mm-hmm.
you lose yourself. You're doing
Mm.
everything,
Okay.
trying to get ready for this baby, and you stop doing a lot of things for yourself. You stop
Okay.
caring so much. You put yourself on the back burner. I think that's, both sides when you have kids, period.
Mm-hmm.
But
Mm-hmm.
it just got to where everyone was asking questions about the baby, and no one was
And not
asking
about you.
how was I doing? How am I feeling
Mm-hmm.
today? And
Mm-hmm.
to go from one size to another, couldn't find anything to
Mm-hmm.
wear, couldn't find anything to
Mm-hmm.
sit, um and just got depressed. I understood why I was gaining weight. But
Right.
then I was worried about, okay, people are going to look at me different after I have the baby. How long will it take
Mhm.
me to lose the weight? I was, you know, so much worried about things like that. And
Mhm.
once, you know, my baby was born, it was more of, I guess in a way I can say that I was more upset with myself because of things that I had to deal with now with my baby. When I was,
Mhm.
believe it was 5 months, they told me that they, you know, do the genetics test and everything, and the test came
Mhm.
back that she had Down syndrome. So
Okay.
dealing with that throughout the pregnancy, having high blood
Mhm.
pressure, being diabetic, I've never had any of these problems beforehand.
Mhm.
Like every problem
Okay.
that you could think of, I had.
Mhm.
Developed
Okay.
pneumonia, preeclampsia,
Mhm.
and I wanted a baby so bad. But then
Yeah.
looking at the things that I had to deal with afterwards,
Mhm.
and I want to say that was like a deeper depression. You know, you
Mhm.
have the postpartum depression, you have the
Right.
regular depression, and then you go to a deeper depression. So
Right.
I wanted this baby so bad, and I, you know, blame myself because of things that I had to deal with now, the things that she has to deal with in life. And
Mhm.
she's not feeling sorry for herself. So
Right.
why should I? But as a mother, you know, it made me feel like, okay, you did this to her. You wanted a baby so bad that this is what you
Mhm.
did because of the age that I had her, which I was
Okay.
43 when I had her, right
Okay.
before my 44th birthday. She was born in June and I turned
Mhm.
44 in July.
Okay. Okay.
So just dealing with the different things that I have to, you know, do now, taking her to therapy and exercising her muscles and the low muscle tone and things that they tell you about Down syndrome. I see it. They say, you
Mhm.
know, tongue is a powerful thing. I don't claim it. I just
Right.
pray over my baby, you know, and I do what I have to do. But still in
Right.
the back of my mind, I have those days where I wake up and it's like, what did I do? You
Mhm.
know, where do I go from here? What am I supposed to do today?
Mhm.
Like had I
Let me,
had her earlier, what
mhm.
changes would have been
Right. You mean earlier in your life,
in
earlier
my life?
in age?
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
I gotcha. Okay. Okay. So, let me ask you this: have you sought professional treatment?
No, because I'm so focused on her.
Mhm.
I guess in a way it's kind of like I'm doing what everyone else does or did while I was pregnant. I'm worried about her, which I should be, and not worried about myself. I have to
Yeah.
take care of her once I know that, you know, she's on the right path to where they want her to be and get to where
Mhm.
she needs to be. Then I'll be okay,
Mhm.
and I'll worry about me later. But
Okay.
I
So let me
have
tell you
brought
this:
it up. But
to whom? To whom did you bring it?
um, I brought it up to my sister. I did
Mhm.
post about it because I read up on some things and, you
Okay.
know, just making different posts that, you know, I know a couple of people did inbox me about. Just
Mhm.
it in a split second, and sometimes you don't really notice. You're fine and you're laughing, and just in the blink of an
Mhm.
eye, it's like now I'm mad, I'm furious because of what I
Right.
did. Oh,
Mhm. And you realized this, you said during the last part of your pregnancy, that's when you started feeling, was that before or after they did the genetic testing?
it was after I found out,
Okay.
but I think the
Okay.
depression got worse after I had her.
Okay. Okay. And let me ask you this. So right now today she's 8 months old.
Hmm.
Do you still blame yourself? Do you still have that?
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
Okay. All right. So what we're going to do after the show, We're going to see if we can get you some help in your area.
Yes, ma'am.
See if we can get you connected to someone that could actually help you. And so many services, particularly now during this pandemic,
Right.
are free. And you can see a therapist just like we're seeing one another now.
Right.
You can see a therapist like that. You don't have to leave your home. There's no risk to you or your baby.
Mm-hmm.
And you can have therapy with a professional, and I
Mm-hmm.
get it. Sometimes Facebook is an outlet, and I get, because I do that. Sometimes I use it as an outlet. However,
Mm-hmm.
when you find yourself in crisis mode, you need to reach out to professional personnel. And so that's what my greatest concern is, that um, we can try to get you connected with someone in your particular area in Florida. Okay.
Okay.
Um, so um, we're going to work on that after the show. Okay. You and I will work
Okay.
on that. All right.
Yes,
All
ma'am.
right. Brother Swab,
That's
what,
good.
what do you think about what she
Well, just processing a lot of things, but I don't think it's the right platform to discuss it because, I write practice from a social, spiritual, and clinical perspective. So I put it all
said?
together, and I look at,
Hmm.
the 24 hours where our priorities are. And sometimes, like my dad used to say, cry now, laugh later. So sometimes you have to make the sacrifice or the front, and then it all balance
Okay.
out. So I just was listening, being empathetic to her experience, but only
Hmm.
way I will be able to address hers, it will be one on one. You know how I
Yeah.
am.
Yep.
Um,
Yep. So,
so
because we don't know, and women don't know, and I know I didn't. I'm not going to even pretend like I knew that men go through some of the same things that women go through when it relates to childbirth. Um,
Mm-hmm.
I want you to tell us um, about your experience, and then we're going to get into the book. Um, and also, we're going to tell you where you can get a copy of his book. He is the author of Lust Child, Children Born Out of Lust and Not Love. We're going to tell you where you can get this book later on during the show, so stay tuned, okay? All right.
okay. Well, again, I'm not going to say necessarily the same things, but it's still
Hmm.
consistent with the area of depression, which is PPNP, and ND which is parental postpartum depression. And so a lot of times
Hmm.
these are just the moods and the body, the depression, the crying, the irritability. And so what happened is these are consistent with what the ladies are experiencing. Um, for out of men, it's about like maybe 1,000 new cases for new fathers. On the high end is about 2,700. That makes it about 1 or 10 on the high end and 1 out of 4 on the low end. And so, what happens is, I'm always saying that the average male, it could be the ladies, but again, learn things from a female perspective. And when that group disregards the feelings, the opinions, or the perceptions of a man, then we all don't know that we go into things. It's just like domestic violence. You
Hmm.
know,
Hmm.
they say,
Hmm.
well, women this, but the men, but we don't report it. And sometimes we don't talk about things. And so
Hmm.
when I wrote the book, and I'm very transparent, I just shared about some of the things that we go through. And
Hmm.
so a lot of times it just, because we don't really express ourselves as much as we should, a lot
Hmm.
of times people think these issues are not exist. And so I always tell people, like, we go through things. We go through the depression, we go through the anxiousness, the irritability, and it creates arguments, fights
Hmm.
with your partners. You're not as funny as you used to be. Just go through a lot, and you feeling
Hmm.
disconnected. And so my personal story is this. Um, Again, the book was called Lust Child, Truly Born Out of Lust and Not Love. I did not have any connection to the mother. So she probably went through her stuff too, feeling rejected. But I definitely did not connect. I didn't love or any of that. And I was still knowing I had to deal with like the stresses of friction with the mother because I'm very verbal and transparent. And I'm like, I didn't want a child. And how do you think I want to give something that I don't have to give? And that's love. And I tell a lot of ladies that if it's hard for me to want to even give financially when I'm not even connected emotionally. And then I'm feeling some kind of way. But again, society don't see that. They're thinking, you trying to speak for us. And a lot of times we don't communicate. But I say, listen, I don't have a connection to the child. I didn't want the child. I didn't love you. I didn't love the child. And how do you think what I'm going through? And then so you start feeling some kind of way, and you know you have to be responsible. But it's just the fact is, I can't give what I don't have. And for the most part, it's the love and it's the connection to the child, which creates some type of guilt. You know, you start feeling feelings of regret. Like, why did I make this decision? Then you start thinking about the economic ramifications. You think about the spiritual ramifications. And a lot of times we just look at things from a carnal minded. But the reality is spiritual disobedience results into a lot of things that happen to our children when it comes to physical disability, emotional disabilities, or behavioral disabilities, or long term, because we do certain things that's so out of order. And then this creates a lot of anxiety, depression, feelings of guilt, and it happens, and it happens for us as well. I can tell you, you find yourself crying, just thinking about how you was raised or how you was taught. Then you start thinking about things from a spiritual perspective, like, man, this is so out of order. You know, it's just so many things that go through your head. And like, you know, I always say one of the most painful experiences in life is the pain of regret. And you can't go back. And so I found myself just really feeling depressed. Wasn't no time suicidal, but I tell you, I didn't want to live. So I don't know. I guess that's, what do you call it, between, what's called purgatory, between heaven and heaven. You just haven't reached either place. So I didn't. I know the one thing I couldn't do is kill myself, but I didn't want to live. I tell you, I was like, and I was really sad. And I'll tell you, with guys, postpartum depression has a long-term effect on not only the individual, the child, and the family. Because if you're not working through that, you're going to constantly reject the child. You're going to constantly not introduce the child to other family members, and then the child's going to feel rejected. And so it's just going to be like a big circle, you know. So it's serious. And again, a lot of times we don't talk about things, but trust, we go through a lot. You know.
And I know that to be true. I am so thankful to have you as a personal friend, because from our talks, I've learned so much more about things from the male perspective that I did not know. And just from reading your books, he has another book out, the 10 Commandments. That's my other book.
It's the 10 Commandments of Intimacy, Guidelines to Building Strong, Healthy, and Functional Relationships from a Social, Spiritual, and Clinical Perspective.
That's it. And
that's part one of the 10 Commandment series.
Yes, you all need to get that book as well. We're going to tell you how to get all of his books before we go off the air. What I did find amazing just now is that both of you were saying the same thing, you know, but you said it in different ways, of course, but both of you were kind of sharing the same story. And so what happens is, if we don't start having these dialogues, women, we won't know. We won't know, because a lot of times we'll just say, oh, he doesn't want to talk, or he's just acting a deadbeat, or what have you. But we never stop to have real conversations.
Could I interject? I
Yes.
think I'm glad you brought that up. That triggered me to say something. One of the biggest disservices that we do to one another in our community is
Mm-hmm.
saying, I never heard of that, or that's not true, when we're trying to express ourselves. So we tend to shut down, because
Right.
when we get enough courage or decide to make a decision to share,
Mm-hmm.
we're immediately contradicted. So it's like saying we're not being validated, and we're not being respected. So just because you haven't heard it, don't mean it's not true. My experiences may be a lot more diverse than yours. And so when we're trying to tell you something, don't say that's not true, because we're speaking the truth, and we're speaking from our truth, and trying to share what we experience. And when you sit there and say, I haven't heard of that, it's okay for you not to hear it. But I experienced it, and I heard it. And so sometimes we have to sometimes listen. You're not the only one that has a story, or dealing with trauma, or dealing with depression. And so when they always say a real man cries, a real man prays, well, a real man communicates.
Right. Right.
You know, so when we start to communicate, don't shut us down.
That's a good point. That's a good point. And I do believe that we, when I say we, I mean me too. But I do better now because I know better. But we have a tendency, like Brother Suave said, just because we don't know it, just because we have never heard of it, does not invalidate the fact that this is really how men feel. This is how they think. This is what they go through. And just because we don't know it, it doesn't mean that it's not so. And so a lot of times, I think the feedback we give them sometimes will, oh, there she goes. The feedback, welcome back, my dear.
I'm sorry, my phone died, so I had to switch to the computer.
It's okay, welcome back. And so sometimes we don't give them their due as men, because just because we never heard of it, and just because we didn't know, it does not mean that their feelings are invalidated, their emotions, what they're thinking, even to the way they process information. I could never tell you how to process your emotions as a man. I would be completely out of order. You know why? Because I'm not a man. I don't know how a man should process his emotions, and I think that's where we kind of get in trouble, even when we are going through pregnancy and things of that nature. I think the first thing a woman is prone to say is, what's wrong with you? I'm the one pregnant. What's wrong with you? I'm the one carrying the baby. And it's so funny because Treese laughing, because Treese was like, well, what they got to go through?
Yeah, because we're constantly being marginalized,
Right.
And I have to admit, I said that a lot, and it's because, like, Brother Suave said, men are not vocal. They don't, show emotions. They don't talk about their feelings like that. So if they're not talking, how would you know? How would you understand what they're going through?
Yeah, and unfortunately, you had missed it. We do sometimes when we begin to share, we shut down, saying that's not true. I ain't never heard of that. And I'm like, as soon as we trying to express and we build enough courage to say, and then it's blurted out like that's not true. Now you just didn't validate what I was actually struggled to communicate. And then when I start, you shut me down. So then it goes right back to square one. I'm not going to communicate, because again, you're not the only one that has a story. about how you feeling. So it's just that we apprehensive about it.
Mm.
Man, this is really good. This is really good. I'm going to play a little clip that we have on postpartum depression. And again, just to give credence to what Brother Swab was saying, I have two clips to show you. Each of the two clips only address things from a woman's perspective. There is
Mm-hmm.
absolutely no mention of the men, as if, they don't even exist. But here's my
Mm-hmm.
thing again: where did the seed come from?
You know what? When I I like to be controversial sometimes. I
Yes,
say, let me just break it down. Since
right.
y'all just totally gonna disregard us, and you don't say my mother was right to heaven, you say our father. So I'm gonna say something controversial.
Okay.
The first mother was a father. Because guess what?
Right,
When God created earth, he gave birth to it. And then when
right,
he created Adam, Adam gave birth to Eve.
right.
So we're
That's
constantly giving. And guess what? We held life and let you hold it for 9 months.
oh, watch yourself.
You get it? So you hold it for 9 months, but I've been holding it forever.
Right.
I like that. I like that.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
Remember, God gave creation. He gave birth to the world,
Yep,
everything. And then
yep.
Adam, as the first man, gave birth to the first woman, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
So we constantly giving birth.
It's
And
good.
then you want a child, you gotta come
Mm-hmm.
to us and give to
Right. Get
you.
that seed.
And you guess what? I've been holding, so I gave birth to you, and you hold it for
Right,
9 months
right, right, right.
and
Oh,
let it
that's good.
marinate.
That's good. That's good. See, that's why I like talking to him, because he'll come out the pocket with stuff, and you have to be honest. Stuff you ain't really never heard before. Let's just be honest about that. Stuff
Right,
we have
right.
never heard, stuff we have never thought about, and he'll come out the pocket with it. Then you be sitting there like, oh, okay, okay, that's good. Okay, okay. And then after he finished talking to you, he's gonna leave you with just enough nuggets so you gonna, like with me, I go back and do research so
Mhm.
that the next time I have a conversation with him, I can flow where he's flowing, because I don't like not knowing stuff. So I take enough information from him and go, and when I finish talking to him, I go do my research. So the next time I talk to him, guess what? He's the one saying, yep, that's right, you got it now. So it's important that we do have these kind of dialogues, so we can hear from both perspectives. And again, dog, that was really good, man. That's really good. And I'm gonna be honest, I never even thought of it that way. I'm just gonna tell you the truth. That was good. God gave birth to the earth. Adam gave birth to Eve, really, because she came out of him. And then when we needed seed, we had to come back to them. They gave us seed for 9 months. And then literally we gave them back what they gave to us. Lord have mercy. Lord have mercy.
The
Okay,
mind
so
blowing, thought
let's
provoking, and eye opening personality.
See what happens when men go ahead and talk and express themselves?
yep,
You learn something.
yep, you do. But you have to have an open mind. As
Right.
a
That's the
woman, you have
catch.
to have an open mind. Yep, you have to have an open mind, and you can't feel um like you and I were talking last night, and you can't feel like a man doesn't have anything to say when it comes to the pregnancy part, the
Mm.
labor delivery, the financial part, the emotional part, and like Brother Swab say, the spiritual aspect of it. We have to get out of the notion that when I say we, I mean women, female, that we're the only one, like we have a monopoly on the emotions. You know what I'm saying? Like we're the only ones entitled to have emotional moments, or moments where we just can't process everything at one time, moments of guilt, moments of regret. We have to stop pretending like we have the monopoly on all of those emotions. So I want
Right.
to show you this clip. And during this clip, again, they don't even mention men, as if The seed just dropped out the air. All right, here we go.
You're exhausted, you're exhausted, you're unsure if breastfeeding is going right. You're exhausted, you're unsure if breastfeeding is going right. Why is the baby crying? I mean, there can be a wide range of.
I know you exhausted.
Everyone I knew, I felt like had the most wonderful experience after they had their baby, but I didn't know.
Let's see.
Well, she didn't say he was exhausted.
Do y'all see it playing? Because it's showing that it's playing on my end.
Everyone I knew, I felt like had the most wonderful.
It keeps stopping on my end.
Yeah.
It's stopping on your end. Okay.
You're exhausted, you're unsure if breastfeeding is going right. Why is the baby crying? I mean, there can be a wide range.
We know that you're exhausted.
You're exhausted, you're unsure if breastfeeding is going right. Why is the baby crying?
No, but you guys know we've been having technical difficulties all night.
Exhausted, you're unsure if breastfeeding is going right. Why is the baby crying? I mean, there can be a wide range of emotions in the first couple weeks. 80% of women will experience this, and we kind of label that as kind of the baby blues. So that's normal. Expect that to happen, and there's a light at the end of the tunnel. However, for about 15% of women, it goes beyond that, and that is what we would label as postpartum depression. If they start experiencing symptoms 9 months down the road, they don't necessarily relate it back to the pregnancy. But really anything in the first 1 year we would label as postpartum depression. Classic symptoms of depression: feeling hopeless, crying too much. Sometimes it just shows up as irritability. Of course, if you're ever having feelings of wanting to hurt yourself or wanting to hurt others, we need people to seek out help immediately. The biggest thing that I want to instill to women is that they just need to be open about it. There's no need to feel shame, to blame themselves. They are not being bad moms. They shouldn't feel like failures. They just need to be open about it.
So what y'all think about that?
Wow, I love it. It's just, I think that unfortunately, again, the male's perspective is normally marginalized because again, this when you say monopoly, like the women think they own the baby or they think they own the circumstance, they own the emotions, and what we do is not there. But the thing is, you can't get life. You know, it's like, Martin, you want that baby, you have to get that seed from us. You know,
right.
And so you have to understand. In fact, if you look on my Facebook page, I put a thing on because, well, this is not my show, so certain things I'm going to filter myself, but there's an agenda about marginalized men. Right. These feminist groups are just doing it. And do you know a person right here, a politician in Georgia, is trying to limit father rights, saying that we're really not that important. And they're trying to limit father rights and saying that he doesn't need to spend much time. But all those statistics show that when children are with their fathers, they better self-esteem, the pregnancies are reduced, the better self-worth, more accomplishment. You graduate and have a profession. You don't deal with as much depression. You feeling positive about yourself. With all those positive statistics, they're still trying to marginalize us, and it doesn't help when we contribute to that philosophy. Like when someone will say, "What's your name, Johnny?" Your mother named you Johnny. You didn't even consider saying the parents. You just totally disregard the man. And saying, or you hear a person say, "Well, my mama said this. My mama always taught me," or my grandma. Unconsciously, we are marginalizing the fathers, but then every time you turn around, You want a relationship. You want to have a man to hold you. You want a baby. See what I'm saying? So it's almost saying we're only good for this. And if you don't correct your mindset and check yourself, it's going to, again, that cycle. And then this agenda is going to eliminate us. And then you're going to have a lack of respect for us. And this behavior is going to continue when we try to express yourself, and you're going to minimize and marginalize us. So I'm telling you, it's an agenda.
Wow.
Yeah.
And they putting this stuff into law.
Wow.
Yes, I put. If you look on my Facebook, just look at it, and I say you can call, and I told the men, I said, friends, frats, associates, please call this lady and let them know how important a father, you as a father being in your child's life. Because at the end of the day, I'm gonna show you how powerful a father is. Again, no matter what we go through in life, we always have Father which art in heaven. We try to dismount, but we don't realize this is where it comes from. This is order. And then, it was a situation where, think about when people say they wish they had their dad to protect them, to give them guidance, and they're always trying to seek out some guy who's like their father. And if they never had a father, whatever perception they have of a father, they try to seek into a man. So although they want to say one thing in their heart, they know what's best, or they know how they really, really feel, you know? And so I believe it's an agenda, and we have to really check ourselves, you know, because I see it all the time.
Yeah. Yeah. So what part do you all think that the individual plays when it comes to, can I connect with this baby or not? How much of the onus is on the individual to figure out those emotions?
Well, it's like this. We know we can create perceptions in our head. There's a moral compass in us. Even though people always say, well, I wasn't taught this, or I was taught this. We have a moral compass. It's just like, for example, I'm going to give a prime example. You got a 1-year-old. They don't know about crime, stealing. But let's say they're in the line and you see those candies there, right? And they grab it and start eating it. Now you can be a parent that may say, "What you doing?" Or you look at them and do like this. They grab it and put it behind their back. They was never taught. But something eternally would say that's wrong. That's why they tried to hide that candy. So it's certain things about life that no one has to teach you. It's like organic. And so when it comes to connected to your child, I didn't love my child, but I know that child didn't ask to be here. I know the child need love. Requires love, should be loved, should be taken care of, should be protected, should be given things and held and nurtured. And although it may be external, it would eventually develop into something internal. And I knew I had to put in the work. And, you know, and that's what I did. It didn't come overnight. But see, the thing is, I'm not a people pleaser. I'm not worried about what people think. I just work through that journey. That's called development. You developing, you know, it's not about perfection, but progress. So I wasn't perfect. I was a mess, but I worked through it. And, you know, and I love my son. You know, we down, you know, we talk and have, you see, I was just down and spent those 4 days just trying to even bond more. And he's 17, you know. But it wasn't an easy journey, but who says it has to be easy? You know, you just have to push, press forward, you know, and make it happen. And see, and also, but one thing about the dynamic of the male and female, there's a different social construct between women and men. So you maybe not loving that child either, but you worrying about people judging you. So you're gonna say, "Oh no, I love my kid." You probably don't love them, or you may be going through the same thing I'm going through. But the difference is, guys, listen. I can't worry about how you think. I got to work with me. You know what I'm saying? And then we saying, my child come first. Well, no, my soul come first. I got one heart, one life, one soul. I got to protect it at all costs. Well, Jesus died for us. I can't die for my child. I got to get my heart right, my mind right. And next thing you know, I can lead by example because now my child seeing me healthy, strong, and functional. You know, I don't have to walk around with that happy face and feeling miserable. And so I just pressed through. I wasn't happy. I was miserable. I didn't want to hold them and touch them. But what I did was, for those moments, I was able to like, I gotta do this. And I was like, hey, and then I got stronger and stronger and stronger. I talked to people about it. Real feelings, not going saying, oh, no, no. No, I was like, listen, I ain't really feeling this. You know, I wasn't worried about somebody judging me, you know, because these feelings are real, you know?
Yeah.
And unfortunately, again, we're different, you know?
The fact that you're not worried about anybody's, judgment or perception of you or anything of that nature, because it is raw, it is real, it is transparent, it is really life-changing. And if you've never heard a man be so transparent, you need to really get this book, open it up, read it, dissect it, and let it get into your heart that men go through postpartum depression also. And so the concept that we talked about last night, Tree, what they feeling this kind of way about, tell us a little bit, when you said that, what exactly were you thinking?
It was more so, I guess, being that they don't talk. Men are not one to talk about their feelings. You find women, we are emotional creatures, so you have to tell us to shut up because we're talking about our feelings so much. We're just putting everything there. And my thing was, he wasn't talking. So if you're not talking, how am I supposed to know? And I asked questions, and it was always, nothing's wrong. Well, how are you feeling? I'm fine. You don't have anything to talk about? No. It was like at the beginning, he was not connected. My thing was, I put a post up on Facebook saying, if you knew my story, then you would understand my prayer.
Right.
I asked for children. I went, in so many words, I went a different route, and then I was blessed. So with my daughter's name, I wanted a boy, and I was going to name him Messiah. God saw fit for me to have a girl. I'm still, they say that you should never question God, but at the same time, if you don't know, you're supposed to ask questions. So her name is Masani, which is, I say, is the female version of Messiah. Her name is Sani Miracle. She is a miracle. Journey. It took me a journey to get her. I know what I prayed for. I know it's a blessing for me. Then I don't know. Again, my shower is my best friend. I come home from work, I get in the shower, I let it out, and then I can move on. I have the mindset to where if God didn't want me here, I wouldn't be here. He kept me here for a reason. So I have to, you know, do what he kept me here for my kids. So that's a
Right.
push for me. Every day that I wake up and I'm standing over my kids, looking at them, it gives me
Mm-hmm.
that I need for that day. Yes, I may be dragging and, you know, uh, I don't know if I could do it today. But,
Mm-hmm.
you know, you sit and you have a talk with God, and it's been 8 months, so I'm making it. It's not all peaches and
Right.
cream, but, you know,
Right.
I have to do what I
Yeah.
have to do. She didn't ask to be here. So
Yeah.
I definitely, I know I asked for it. I put it that way.
Right.
So I'm doing
Mm-hmm.
what
Mm-hmm.
what needs to be done.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think one of the most amazing things to me is how sometimes we can start off over here, like Brother Suave say, in regret and guilt. You're angry one day, you're indecisive the next day. You got to worry about the spiritual aspect, the financial aspect. This child gonna need this. This child gonna have to go to school. This child gonna need clothes, food, and shelter. And then it hits you. Oh, wait a minute. I got to love this child too. That means
Hmm.
I have to make child a part of me, who I am, not just from seed and egg form, but I have to make this child a part of my daily life. I have to take this child into me and make the child a part of me. Whereas, first of all, I didn't even want the child,
Hmm.
but now I not only have to provide for you, I got to take you into me. I have to become intimate with this child. I got to bring this child into me. And I think a lot of times what makes that really hard is the fact that we don't know the answers. Even when we're asking God, why this and why that? I don't know about you, but I never really get an answer to the whys and the wherefores. When I'm saying, God, why did you let this happen? Why? I never get a real concrete answer to where I can go back and say, okay, that's why that happened. And I would be telling the untruth if I say, like, every time I ask God why, he just explains stuff. No, he does not explain stuff to me. I
No.
remember um, I lost my last child uh, before she was even born. And for a long time, I was really angry. I was really angry. I was angry with God because I kept thinking, like, dog, I've been serving you all these years and, you know, dedicated my life to you, church, and this what I got to go through, you know. And then I start feeling like, well, why didn't I know I was pregnant? I should have known that. I should have been more in tune with my body. I should have known this. So guilt has a way of coming in places you don't even know the door is open. You would never know that guilt has crept in and grabbed its little tentacles to your heart and your mind until you really start feeling it. You start, because guilt brings anger too. Anger and resentment, all of that comes along with guilt. And before you know it, you're in this place where you just mad. You mad all the time. And
Hmm.
it's hard to tell people this is exactly what I'm mad about. So when they say, what's
Hmm.
wrong? I don't know. Guess what? We really
Hmm.
don't
Yeah.
know. Because so much
Well,
going on at one time, we don't know.
Hmm.
may I say something?
Yes,
I
sir.
think I wanted to address that. I think we do know. We just don't
Mm-hmm.
have the integrity to say what it is. See, it's
Mm-hmm.
like we dance
Mm-hmm.
around a lot of stuff because we don't want to
Right.
tell the truth of who we are. So we lie, we
Mm-hmm.
manipulate, we dance. We know what's right and wrong.
Mm-hmm.
And so what happens is
Mm-hmm.
like when I let people be mad at me because
Right.
that's what makes them feel better about it. But the reality, they mad
Right.
at themselves for failing again. and doing something that's going to have some consequence to it. And so when the consequences are there in their face, they like, I don't know why I'm mad. No, you mad because you done did the same thing that you say you weren't going to do, and you did it again. That's why I say you don't do better when you know better. You do the better as a result of discipline. Discipline is way better than knowledge, because everybody says, oh, I know. But the discipline of not doing something you know you shouldn't have did is it like dieting. You know you shouldn't eat it, don't eat it.
Yeah.
You know you shouldn't get with this person, but you get with them. You do something in the dark, it comes out in the light. It's a lot of things we know we shouldn't do. So people have, we do more lying than truth. We lie to others, and we especially lie to ourselves. You know, and so people know, they're aware, they just don't want to say it. They dance around things. You know, we try to say little things. We know exactly what it is because we have a moral conscience. You know, we're not so psychotic that we don't know. We know, but we just don't want to say it. Yeah. Just like when people say when they're wrong, they can't even say they're wrong instead of just saying, my bad, I made a mistake. See how they struggle with that small thing. Yeah. So, you know, if they struggle with that small thing, they're going to struggle with bigger things because nobody wants to be exploited.
That's true. That's true. And I want to get into the book a little bit before we close.
Okay.
One of the main things I went through and marked a few of the pages. This is what struck me. Your dedication really struck me. I want to read this dedication Brother Suave wrote. Again, we're looking at Lust Child, children born out of love and not love. Go over to Amazon, and it's there on Amazon, hard copy or paperback. It's there now. You can get it, and it's on Prime. So if you have a Prime membership, you get the book in 2 days. Okay. Listen to this dedication. This got me. This got me. It says this book is dedicated to all those children born into conditions that are totally out of their control. I sincerely apologize for my contribution to bringing another soul into this world in an ungodly manner and not doing things decently and in order. Society would have us believe that that is okay. However, deep within our souls, we know that our actions are counterproductive to our religious and moral value systems. Maybe because we have become so undisciplined and have brought into this social constructivism. While buying into the social constructivism, society as a whole digs itself deeper into the holes of social and spiritual immorality. That blew me away. When you thought about this dedication, Brother Suave, what led you to say that I sincerely apologize for my contribution to bringing another soul into this world in an ungodly manner and not doing things decently and in order? That was powerful to me.
Okay. Well, again, I'm transparent, and I don't do anything as a personal attack on anyone. I'm just transparent. Again, we know certain things. There's an order to everything. You know, we always say, I pray for a child, but you can't pray for a child before you pray for a husband or a wife. That's order.
Right.
So our priorities are order. So now we know that you don't bring a child in this world without having that system created first and then a child. So what happens is, but then now we have these social constructs of saying it's okay. And so we marginalize the word of God, we marginalize the order, and then we start getting carnal minded and coming up with our own philosophy and saying, this is how it is. And that completely contradicts how any religious philosophy is an order to everything. And so, and again, I hear it. So we say it all the time, and then other people say it, and I listen to it. So it's like language, as I say. Again, it's no attack on anyone. It's just the fact that I hear people say it's a blessing, but it's another B word. It's biology. Because no matter if you hunching, that's biology. That creates a baby. That's the biology that creates a baby. And so we see things and we have to, just like we change the meanings of things, like bad as in good versus bad as in how its original means. So we sometimes, we find some way to, we appreciative. I'm appreciative, but we just use different languages. And so what I did was, I know that within my heart, I knew that it was going to be some consequences for my spiritual disobedience. So I said, okay, well, I'm gonna have some hard times with the mother. And I prepared mentally to say, I'm going to go through some HE double hockey stick because I did things out of order. I'm going to have some things and some phases in my life because I did things out of order. I'm going to have some hardships financially because I did things. So I expected hardship in life as a result of what I did that was contrary to my spiritual belief system. And so I had to apologize. It's just like repenting.
Trish,
so I was
Trish,
aware
how you
of
feel
myself.
about what he said?
I agree with
I was
him.
asking her how you feel about what he's saying.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I definitely agree with that. I have to say, I did state, that a child was something that I prayed for, and it was out of order. My priorities weren't straight, and I think when your priorities are not straight, it is going to be, some things that are out of order because you did things out of order. So you just going about it the wrong way. So
but what I don't want you to take away is that perhaps because I did things out of order, that's why my baby has Down syndrome. You know what I'm saying? Or that's why, because I just don't believe, this is just my personal belief. I don't believe that God will punish a baby like that, So a lot of times when things go wrong, we look at it as if God is punishing for us for something we did, instead of looking at it like God telling us, okay, I need you to reset your moral compass. I need you to get back on track. I need you to refocus your energy over here. I need you to pay more attention to this over here. We don't take that mindset because it's easier for us to say, well, God has punished me for something, rather than saying, I need to look at something internal. You know what I'm saying? We look at it more as a rebuke more than we do a discipline measure. God has discipline measures because he loves us. You know what I'm saying? And Miracle is absolutely beautiful, and she is so funny. And let me tell you something. Her attitude, honey, stays on 10. Her attitude
always.
Her attitude stays on 10, And the truth of the matter is, sometimes, and I know you did not go into this, when you say you prayed for a child, I'm sure you had no idea what that would entail. You could not have known the outcome of your prayers. There's no way you could have known how that DNA test would have come back. You know what I'm saying? There's no way you could have known about her chromosomes and all of that kind of stuff. And then you say you wanted a boy. There's no way you could have controlled, what gender your child was. So I do want you to feel encouraged that you're doing an excellent job. You're doing an excellent job. I know in the beginning you all were separated for quite a long time before she was able to come home. And one of the things that I do want to applaud you on, you did make an effort to always go to the hospital and just spend that bonding time, you know. And
Right.
so I want to tell you, as hard as that might have been for you to do, you did it.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
And you made it through until she was able to come home. So there is
Mm-hmm.
always another perspective you can look at things from.
Mm-hmm.
You can be the author of the narratives in your life just by
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
changing your perspective, you know,
Right.
because you can say, well, she may not be, you know, she may have Down syndrome, but she is alive.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Because losing a child, let me tell you something,
Mm-hmm.
losing a child is far more weightier than having to care for a special needs child.
Mm-hmm.
Because even if you have a special needs child, you still have that child with
Turns
you.
out. Mm-hmm.
When your child is gone, he or she is gone.
Right.
And there's nothing
Mm-hmm.
you can do
Yeah.
to bring that child back. You can
Mm-hmm.
question God. Sometimes I pray. Sometimes I still, uh, as a result of literally watching my daughter die, I still suffer. Next month will make 3 years. And so coming
Mm-hmm.
up to March, I'm always cognizant of the fact that I need to start reaching out to my court system so that I don't end up in that dark place again. You know, and I've
Mm-hmm.
not been shamed to talk about being diagnosed with depression and anxiety. You know, I watched my dad die at his bedside. And then I always tell the story. When I went for my brain surgery, I the two people that I had to give power of attorney over me was my eldest daughter and one of my best friends. All of a sudden, both of them died 6 months of each other. I carry that guilt.
Yeah.
Sometimes I still carry it because I'm like, well, wait a minute. They were going to take care of me, but then both of them
Mm-hmm.
died before. You know what I'm
Mm-hmm.
saying?
Right.
So
Yeah.
guilt has a way of coming in areas that we don't even know doors are open. And so that's how come I think it's really, really important um, for us to have these dialogues and like Brother Swab say, we remove pride. We got to remove shame. We got to remove caring about what people will think. Because I promise you this, somebody's going to see this show and somebody is going to be helped. Somebody is going to be set free. Somebody's going to feel like, man, okay, now I understand why I've been feeling the way I've been feeling. Whether
Yeah.
you male or female, someone is going to see this and be helped. And I know that to
Yeah.
be true because oftentimes like Brother Swole was saying, and it's not just a male thing. Sometimes women are very prideful also. You know,
Yeah.
oh girl, I was
Well,
just having a bad day. You know, no, you depressed.
yeah.
Go ahead,
Well,
Brother Swab.
as my thing is to be a voice for men. You remember, like in the Ten Commandments of intimacy, or having a man write Lust Child. A lot
Mm-hmm,
of times our voice is not being heard, and so I'm going to do it.
mm-hmm,
I'm going to forever advocate for men because I know that the bottom line is over 70% of males are brought up in this world without their fathers, and
mm-hmm,
so we're not, our voice is not being heard because the
mm-hmm,
environment, so they suppress, they're emasculated. And so I'm going to be able to be the voice because I remember all these years of practicing therapy. Um, and I
uh-huh,
remember my staff, Benita, what's your name, young lady?
Trinice.
Trinice. Yeah, Trinice. I remember I was doing supervision. And so I was
mm-hmm,
asking everyone to tell about their cases. And so they did. And so one
mm-hmm,
particular therapist, she was had a child, and she was telling me everything about the child, the grandmother, and the mother, the sisters. And she said she went to the school. She said, I called the sister, I called the grandmother, I called the mother, and I had nobody I can contact. And you see, unbeknownst to our sometimes lady population, they disregard us. So I said,
Mm-hmm.
so it's two parents, the mother and the father.
Mm-hmm.
Those are two that you should focus on. How could you skip the father and go to the grandma, the sister, and the next door neighbor? You forget the order.
Yeah.
Just like I said, when somebody say your name, oh, your mama named you that. They totally they don't say your parents. And so I was like, I said, raise your hand if you do that. And no one did, but I could see in their face, it's common to
Yep.
disregard the father.
Yep.
And that should be on the
Mm-hmm.
emergency list. Even when sometimes when we break
Yep.
up, you don't put the father
Mm-hmm.
name.
For the father.
You know, and then
Yeah.
you have grandparents making decisions. You having children thinking that if something happened to mom, I'm going to my grandma, my auntie, or my sister. No, order, the law,
Mm-hmm.
and the Lord. It's just so many things. Like studying philosophy when I was in seminary, doing my doctorate. I remember the order. It was just order. And even when it comes to law, you know, philosophy and the law is connected. That's why when you sit there and say,
Right.
well, God don't hate killers and robbers, but he hates liars. And you see how
Right.
in the courts, when you lie against the court, they hate it. That's why it seems like a big
Mm-hmm.
crime on it.
Mm-hmm.
You can get you can get a pass for murder, but when you lie, you're gonna get some
Yep.
time. And so people don't understand the connection. And so we do things out of order. And so I like to be that voice because
Mm-hmm.
when I look at it, things are we're just excluded. And so I can imagine my staff who've been operating that way over and over and how society is operating this way over and over. And then when I say something, people look at me like, but again, the mind blowing, thought provoking, and eye opening experience. You're going to,
Yeah.
I'm going to force you to think. It may trouble
Right.
you,
Yeah, it will.
but you're gonna know at the end of the day, it's gonna force you to say, yeah. And that's where I force people to have integrity. You know,
Yeah.
it's a
Yeah.
big thing. You know,
So,
I
Brother
don't
Swall,
ever
we have a
try.
question.
Yeah, and you know, when you met me, I was always straight. And I remember in therapy, people used
Yep.
to always say, "Why do you like to tear people down? You should be building people up." People got a lot of baggage. We need to tear that baggage and get rid of all that stuff first before we build them up. Because they got their baggage, their perception of life is distorted, and you building them, they give them a false sense of security, a false ego. No, you got to tear all that stuff down. It's just like when we being born again, you got to get all that stuff off you and shake it off, you know, and you got to be torn down, not in a negative way, but in a way that to get rid of some of those perceptions and false habits, you know, when you trying to grow and become a new creature.
Yeah. Question
And I can't
for
believe it's
you.
late for me.
Yeah. we got a question for you, Brother Swab, right quick. They were mentioning what you were saying about the order and the hierarchy of things. The question is, what role does grace play, especially in the birth and the value of a child? God uses extreme and extraordinary circumstances to birth persons into the world, especially persons of the Bible. Some people may end up single or without a spouse. Can they pray for a child?
Okay, I'm glad you said that. I remember a young lady I was dealing with, and she was sitting there getting to, you know how some people want to say things because they want to come back and get in their feelings. Well, I'm gonna have me a baby, and I said, okay, well, let's say you want to adopt. Sometimes it may be the same outcome if the child without a father, because again, the child needs both parents. So even if you do adopt and have that kid, you still need to have some type of figure there that's going to represent that man and give that child a different perspective. Remember, at the end of the day, no matter if from that situation she adopted, but that child still had an egg in their life and a sperm in their life that created them. So now that the child's out of the womb, they still gonna need different philosophies. It's like you could be a great father or a great mother, but the children still need perspectives from both. Remember I was saying? Because then the child's still going to pick up the same behaviors, philosophies, so it's going to be the same outcome.
Right.
So it's not saying that they avoided the spiritual part, but then remember I say social, spiritual, and clinical. The child's still going to need to model after that man and learn how he is as a protector, provider. You know, those things are important. That's why I tell ladies, remember my mentoring program in Charlotte, listen, we provide mentorship for these kids who don't have fathers. So we fill in the blank for them. They still need us and still need to, like, we don't let the ladies come in. We go in with these kids because they need to hear another side.
Right.
You know?
Right.
And when you care, you have to start realizing, I am not the only one who can provide for this child. You know?
Right. 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 So I'm going to play our last clip, and then we're going to get ready to close out. And then I'm going to share again where you can get this book from. And we're going to let our guests have their closing words. Okay. Take a look at this clip.
Everyone I knew, I felt like had the most wonderful experience after they had their baby, but I didn't know how to say, like, I am freaking out. Everyone I knew, I felt like had the most wonderful experience after they had their baby, but I didn't know how to say, like, I am freaking out.
Postpartum depression to me is the disconnect you have with your baby.
An overwhelming, uncontrollable sense of anxiety.
One of many mental illnesses that can affect mothers.
When I got pregnant, I was instantly in a bad mood. In addition to that, I had fibroids, which are tumors that grow in your uterus, and it was really scary.
I knew I had postpartum depression from the first time when I went to go and pump my breast milk at work, and I just broke down crying.
I actually remember saying to my husband, you know, people kept saying I'd be so emotional and I feel fine. And the reality of the situation was that I was completely emotionally numb.
Right after I had the baby, it was my husband's birthday, so I baked him a cake and I invited people over, and people were like, what are you doing? But I felt like it was my duty to celebrate his birthday, to try to nurse, and then come back and put on a happy face.
I believed that every parent around me knew what they were doing and that I was this devastating failure.
When my son was 4 months old, and I remember breastfeeding him, but he wouldn't stop crying. And I got face to face with him and I screamed, "Stop crying." That was probably the moment I realized I needed help.
It's a really defeating feeling, knowing that this is something you have no control over.
I thought after that moment, I just need to hold my baby. I don't ever want this to happen again, and something has to change.
Being a stay-at-home mom was really isolating, but I felt like I kind of came out of it when I started exercising and hanging out with other moms.
I started feeling better when I could wake up to my baby every morning, and he just makes everything better and everything worthwhile.
To all the mothers going through this, surround yourself with people who get it, because you're not alone.
I know there's so much pressure right now to be like a perfect mom. You have to be honest. You have to let people in and let them know what you're going through.
If you are out there and you are struggling, I want you to know that it is going to get better.
I'm a mother, and I am vulnerable, but I am capable.
And I am fighting every day.
And I'm doing the best that I can.
And struggling with postpartum depression didn't make me weak, but becoming victorious over it, that's what made me strong.
We have lost way too many moms, so please stay with us. Find yourself a community and keep fighting.
Hey.
All right, that was our last clip. And Therese, let me ask you a question.
Yes, ma'am.
Hey.
I said I am a parent, and this parent happens to be a father, and we do matter, and we do need a support group as well.
Yeah, because again, they said absolutely nothing about fathers, you know. as if the father just is a non-factor. You know, I want to ask a question. Trish, do you feel like you're still dealing with it?
I've here and there. I'm not going to say as much. And I think a lot of it came from, like you said, it was, after she was born, she spent 27 days in the NICU. So I felt like I went through all of that and came home with nothing. So
Right.
It was at that 26th day when they did the car seat test and they said that she was coming home the next day, where I think I started to feel that connection, and I just held her and I cried, and this is my baby. I get to actually take her home, and it pretty much started getting a little bit better from that day on. I mean, I still have some days where I'm just like just blah, but it's not as bad as it was.
Okay, I'm going to show you. Do you have pen and paper, Chief?
I have my phone. I can put it in my notes.
I'm going to put a number. I'm going to put a number on the screen. Those of you that are watching, those of you that are watching on the replay, I want you to write this phone number down, and it's to get help in your area. It's a national hotline. If you're feeling depressed and if you need mental health services, you dial the 1-800 number, and they will connect you with someone in your area that can direct you to get the help that you need. Here's what I want to say to all of you that are listening and that will hear us. Let's not pretend any longer. Let's come out of pretense. Let's stop saying, well, I don't know, and be more responsible for our mental health, because if we don't, no one else will. Okay, here's the number.
Thank you, went a little quick.
Did it come up? Oh, there it is. That's how you know you're talking about some powerful stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Did you get the number?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And those of you that were reading the information, if you didn't get the number, always go back and just read it, and the information is there for you. So my last question is, if you guys had to talk to someone who is currently going through all the emotions, all the feelings, all the guilt, the anger, just everything you went through, what would you tell them now?
Repeat that. You said,
if you had to talk to someone that's going through all the emotions, the anger, the guilt, just everything that you went through during your moment in your time of dealing with postpartum, what would you tell them? Does time really heal all wounds?
well, I mean, my story is different because, I practiced and I always had accountability partners. I also had spiritual leaders, but I also had my professional leaders. And I had one of the greatest psychologists in the world who was a mentor. So it was always, I had access to these people. It's just like a great a psychologist here in Atlanta, Georgia. I can call him because I always say, listen, I need some feedback. I say,
Right.
I'm open, and he know. And I'm like, I say, give me some feedback, because see, we look at therapy as some supernatural. It's really psychoeducation. You're educating, being mindful of what's going on, what your body's going through, what your heart is going through, and your everything. And so someone is giving you information and is helping you learn how to manage it. It's nothing that's such a big deal. And so when you're going through something that's new in your life, you don't know how to manage it, you go to someone who can help you address those issues. And you don't have to look at therapy in such a way. And that's why it's so stigmatized. But if you look at it in a way you're trying to grow and get empowered, you go get psychoeducated. You know, because it's only normal. And I think when society is getting more and more aware of what therapy is, and I think that the world will be a better place. As you see the people who actually are not afraid to talk about it, being transparent, you see how function they operating, and the rest of people like, dang, they just so open with their stuff. Excuse me. It's like this. I had a friend who didn't want to go to someone. And I told her, I say, go ahead. It's going to progressively get worse, and it's going to show up and show out at the wrong time if you don't get no help. And that's what happens.
Yeah, and that's what we don't want. We don't want to be in a crowd or be at work or be somewhere and something just hits us in the face all of a sudden, and then we're having these breakdowns in public.
And that's what you had right in the courtroom.
Yep. Trees, what about you? How would you help someone?
My thing would be to tell them to talk, which is what I wasn't doing. I wasn't talking. I was trying to fight through it on my own. And I saw that wasn't working. I still tried to, kind of put it on the back burner, so to speak, if that makes any sense. This is, I have more important things to do, kids to take care of. So I knew it was an issue. I knew it was something wrong. I guess I didn't want to pinpoint it at the time. I didn't want to address it. I felt like the kids were more important for me to handle them at that particular time. So my advice would be to talk. Open up your mouth. Find someone that you know would be there for you, a good support system that's going to listen, steer you in the right direction, go with you if need be. Talk. Open up your mouth and say something.
Amen. Brother Swall, would you just pray right quick for those that may be dealing with postpartum depression or any form of depression for that matter? Would you just say a quick prayer? And also for those who are dealing with depression from this pandemic as well.
Okay. Father God, as we come to you as humble servants, we thank you, Lord, for waking us up with another day. We thank you, Lord, for just waking us up with another day to get it right. We thank you for your grace. And as we just thank you how we came together on this night, and we ask you to just regulate our hearts, our minds, and we just hope that someone got something out of the message today. We help them to have a understanding. I hope that someone was touched and being able, they was contemplating hurting themselves, so they was contemplating what to do or the next step to make. We just hope that they was able to get something out of this message, this broadcast. And Father God, we just ask you to just continue to be there for people, help them have an understanding balance, about the spiritual ramifications of disobedience, Lord. And Father God, we just ask you to continue to help us and keep our minds on you to do the right things and help us make the right decisions. And we ask you these blessings in your precious holy name. Amen.
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 Thank you
Amen.
guys so much for being with me. Trees, I'm going to call you, and we're going to stay on top of this, and we're going to get you the help that you need, particularly in your area. Okay?
Yes, ma'am. Thank
Brother
you.
Swab, thank you so much for joining us. As always, it's been a pleasure. Again, guys, he is the author of Lust Child, Children Born Out of Lust and Not Love. Head over to Amazon. You can get it. This is the hard copy. You can get the hard copy or the paperback. They're both available. And if you have Amazon Prime, you'll get your book in 2 days. Okay? All right. And so, hey, guys, again, thank you so much. Audience, we thank you so much for tuning in. And do know that we love you here. And we'll see you next time on Live Talk with Benita Bradley. All right. All right. Bye-bye.
Okay. All right.
Bye.
Bye-bye.